Welcome to Corework Trainer Tips. I'm Elizabeth and this is Nicole. We're going to discuss the footwork series as well as single leg series, what to look for and how to cue it so that you best can set your clients up for success. First thing I'm going to talk about, because it's the easiest right now, is the incline height and the toe bar height, just so you have that awareness of the components. Right here I put the incline height on level 3 and I'm going to put the toe bar height on level 3 as well. Then I'm going to ask Nicole here to come on in and she'll straddle, push the glide board up the rails, and then she'll sit on down. She'll put her feet maybe on the struts to begin, and then she'll move her feet to the toe bar, and then she'll lie all the way back. I'm just going to start with in terms of feet parallel, toes wrapped on bar. All right, legs can be completely together or they can be slightly apart, whatever feels the best for her right now. Because the purpose of this is to show knee and hip range of motion. If she comes down, you'll see that she has a little bit more ability to scoot down the board. So now look at her knee and her hip flexion. And then she's going to push back. And then she's going to come down and back. For some people, the lower the incline level, they might prefer this higher toe bar height. They might also prefer, if I ask her to move her feet just down a little bit, a lower incline height. That's going to get a little bit deeper into a squat position. So now she comes down even more. So be cognizant of when I change that incline height, I need to also maybe pay attention to this toe bar height because the two go hand in hand. What I mean by that is just take a note one more time of what this looks like. And then I'm going to ask her to slowly take her feet down, roll on up. She'll step off to the side. I'll increase that incline for her. And now she's going to do that same exact movement pattern with the toe bar height down at that first position. And some people will say, you know what, I don't like it. There's too much resistance. I don't like the squat action. It feels like it's too much through my knees. So you're going to then take note, okay, I lowered the toe bar height maybe for someone else, and this person's now on the machine. I need to then bring that up. I know it's a pretty simple thing. You think, okay, that's not a big deal, but it becomes a really big deal when you start to add exercises in like hip rolls, like which we do. For instance, if I have her move her heels to the toe bar and I ask her to slowly roll up and then come in and then slowly roll down and then press out. Then we'll watch that one more time. She slowly comes up, she comes in, she rolls down, and then presses out. Now watch how different it looks if I bring that toe bar height all the way down to 1. She's going to have more of an excursion up because she's going to be into a deeper squat to start. That might be easier for some. That might be more challenging for some. So that might feel better on the knees. That might feel worse on the knees. There's no right or wrong, but it's more just for you to be aware of the person, how they feel, be cognizant of what they're doing and where their form is maybe losing it, and see if you can tweak something of the GTS to help out when it comes to footwork. So speaking of footwork, do you want me to put you on a higher one, maybe?
Maybe middle.
Middle. Always easier. All right, so I'm going to just break it down a little bit. One of the things with footwork is the intention, okay? So you are cueing moving through mud. You are cueing anything to add. You're applying the resistance. Imagine that you're moving through cement. You're really pulling down, pushing up. It's more of the concentration in when it comes to footwork, not necessarily this, oh, I'm just moving up and down squats. So notice the difference if I just tell you to go ahead and do squats. I know we've talked about this before, and now I'm going to say, Nicole, I really want you to this time feel as if you press your heels underneath the toe bar, slowly come down, and then really resist as you press up. Really resist as you press up, and pull yourself down. Really resist as you come down. It's just that cueing. You might look at it and say, well, physics-wise, you don't pull yourself down, you kind of come down. But it's more just that intention of activating as much as you can in the body to make the exercise more intense. So it's that concentration factor we discussed as one of our foundations. Also with footwork, it's very easy when we go to anything with high half toe. Just see the foot go from high half toe to half toe, meaning that toes wrapped on bar with your feet in a V position. If she raises her heels really high up, we want to keep the heels together. So first look for that, because that's naturally what comes out. That's okay. And then squeezing the heels together, she's gonna bend her knees. And as she bends her knees, you wanna keep the heels lifted, 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 lifted. Now pause right here. If you cue that, that's perfect. They're doing a great job. Now you're gonna cue the intention of the knees. The knees are gonna track over the second and third toe. So you have that inner thigh activation going on, almost as if I'm gonna tell her, squeeze against my hand. That simultaneous action of squeezing in, and then she's keeping the heels lifted, and then she's gonna push out. And as she pushes out, the inner thighs come together and the heels even lift more. And then you come down, you keep having that envision that the heels are lifting up. So that's the intention with footwork, whether it's feet in a V, toes wrapped on bar, your heels are underneath the bar, so it's almost now the opposite. You're pressing your heels under the bar as you come down, and you're keeping that intention of pushing down your heels underneath the bar as you push back up. So you have that feeling of this lengthening occurring in the back of the leg. The point and flex, the key there is when her heels are on the toe bar, is to watch that it's not just this point and flex and she's just kind of moving down and up. It's this reaching, it's this pulling, it's this resisting down, it's the resist pulling up. And again, as soon as someone starts to point, you're gonna maybe notice that the legs maybe relax, or maybe you notice the feet kind of wobble. So you wanna ensure that when they're pointing and flexing, you're watching their feet, that they stay up against an imaginary wall. So her feet would point, and then they stay flexed the entire time as she comes down. That's okay, she just added a tweak, that's cool. And then you keep them flexed as you come back up. And then keep them flexed as you come down, and then back up. And then she's gonna stay up, and this is where you point the toes away. You bring the toes up, you come back down, and then you push up. But I also like the tweak she gave her, pointing and flexing as she's moving through the movement. And then the next thing we did was that high half toe, that releve position. Again, that goes similarly back to the toes wrapped on bar. You wanna keep the heels high to the sky, like you're wearing those stilettos, and then you bend and straighten the knees, legs stay parallel. And if you wanna keep the legs completely together, you can, or you can keep them slightly apart. Or maybe some people have a tough time with that, thinking, okay, my heels have to stay high, my legs have to stay high. It's really helpful to take a couple like little styrofoam pieces, block pieces that you can find, or you can take a little ball right here and have someone try to squeeze that and squeeze in between their knees just to help them get that inner thigh and some actual internal rotation going on at the hips to help with the pelvic floor. Now, going on with footwork and single leg, the same thing applies with single leg. If I tell her to take her right foot, move her ball of her foot to the toe bar, her left knee in the air, this leg is always going to be super active, whether you're bicycling the leg, whether you're reaching it up. As you can see, she's just as active as this leg as she is in this one here, in her right one. The other thing is you're going to watch that foot again. As she comes down and up, can she keep the right heel lifted as she moves? It's super hard. It makes the exercise more and more challenging. If someone's having difficulty with this, rather than harp, keep that heel lifted, stop the exercise, they might have difficulty doing that on the ball of their foot. Move them to their more of the arch, or even move them to their heel if that's more comfortable for them. So that's with single leg. The other thing that we want to just quickly touch upon is the fact that it's real easy to lose focus in this section. You're moving through it, you might have done it before, yeah, it's squats, you've done squats and other routines and other kind of programs, and it's just, all right, I'm just a warm up, it's mindless, it's fun. The intention, again, like I said, is to have that focus and to think about your foot position, to think about the lower body activation, and the next thing you think about are what is going on from the pelvis up, meaning what is my spinal alignment, what is my neck doing, what is my low back doing, where are my ribs, shoulders. So you're having someone, which is the beauty of the GTS, look up at their hips as they move down and up. Maybe you're having them sit and tuck the pelvis under, and that's going to have them go into a posterior tilt. And I cue this in the video because I would like people to feel the extremes of range of motion pain-free, and then have them arch their back, and then have them go somewhere in the middle. So that for that person, they're starting to learn, what are my extremes of my motion? Where am I in the middle? And then you want to have them be able to come back to that middle point, move away from it, and come back, because that's what we do in everyday life. We're not always walking around in this neutral position of our pelvis. We're fluidly moving into it from an anterior to a posterior tilt. Again, hands can be on hips or anything like that, or ribs to fingertips to your lower pelvis to help you, or your crest really, to help you figure out, are you hiking one side or not? Your ribs are just softly down. Your breastbone, first rib is still lifted high to the sky, and your chin is slightly down. That's your alignment. Footwork, you can again add on arms. As soon as you add on arms, you got to look at that ribcage placement. Lastly, you also want to think about the abdominal activation. We discussed as one of our aspects of the principle is that core control. Can she pull in her navel into her spine without flattening her back? Can she pull her navel into her spine, maintain that position, and move the glide board simultaneously? That right there is a challenge into itself. So think about that. What do you want that person to focus on? Maybe abdominal activation, maybe lower body activation. Can they focus on it all? And eventually, this is shocking for me who loves to talk, you're going to take footwork and you're going to give very minimal cues so that eventually you get people out of their brains from this conscious movement pattern to more of a subconscious movement pattern where they're squatting, they're moving, feet are in different positions, and their body is maintaining this real nice stabilization effect. So that's some helpful hints when you move from footwork and single leg series and a little bit of hip rolls with respect to remember the toe bar height, remember the incline height. The higher you go, the more strength, the lower is more control. You can always add a plyometric on. You must be confident with your participants if you add that on because you do have a small little base of support. You can always add the squat stand on. Remember the spinal position and the lower body position, always looking at those feet, always making sure the heels are up and there's not this rolling out on the feet. And most of all, have fun with it.